All newness and novelty wears off in time in a long-term relationship. However deeply in love you are, it wears off. Time does that thing. That's why we age and we become wrinkled. And for some, interest fades. Interest fades. Have you ever dated somebody and you felt like, oh my God, when are they going to go out of town for 5 minutes? I cannot stand you. Worse, if you're married. I want us to have a quick chat about signs you're losing interest in your partner. Signs that you may not like if you believe in this minute. In the next minute, you're gone away. My name is Eric, and this is Eric's Stories. Are you new here? Is it your first time? I'm trying to behave myself. Hi, how are you? Aki gosh, wa? Aki wa? Sansa? Roda. Eric's Stories is about two individuals. The purpose of this conversation is so that you take your one idea, and I take my one idea, and then we exchange it. After all, two is better than one, isn't it? We try and delve deeper in issues of everyday adult life. And, we don't beat around the bush here. Okay? We keep everything Simon pure. We have authentic conversations, including taboo subjects. If you're new, feel most welcome. And please acquaint yourself with my social media handles. I am on Twitter and on Instagram. And I'm also on YouTube. Please subscribe and follow if you'd like. If you feel that you're super famous and everybody knows your name and your handwriting is so conspicuous, so that you will not be given to comment on the comment section, but you have a 2 cents or even a whole shilling you want to share, my DM is open just for you, so make use of it. Why is it important to know the signs you're losing interest? For myriad of reasons. Sometimes people don't know. You just feel like we're just in that lethargic stage of the relationship, or so that you can evaluate the entire thing and see, do I want to still be in this relationship? So it's important to know the signs. Before we discuss the signs, I thought it's important to discuss why we lose interest, even before the signs. Why? Why should be the root cause, isn't it? Why do we lose interest in our significant other? Because think about it, in the beginning of a relationship, you're all lovey-dovey. I mean, you're in the office like, hi, I was just calling to say I've arrived. Like, oh, Rhoda, you arrived in the office. Didn't you arrive? Oh, what? You have sat at the desk. Haven't you sat? Aha, ma. It's nice. And on Fridays, you cannot wait. You've lied to your mother the way you're going to a symposium in his house, which you wouldn't say, but now there's a symposium organized by the office if you live at home. You couldn't get your hands off of each other. Look at you now, 3 months in, you're just like, what a demon. So why? What is the why that people lose interest? Let's start there. That's a good place to start. Senor, first reason, this is just random from especially my experience. I was dating this woman once and she had a belly full of me. Oh, she was so tired. Oh my God, she was tired. She never said it, but I felt her energy. It was almost palpable. She was tired of me, tired of her brother. Almost, she'd look at me she was super tired. So from my experience, conversations I've had and books I've read, these are some of the reasons why people lose interest before we go to the signs. First reason why people lose interest, so you can check yourself, when we outgrow or outmature the other person. Have you ever dated somebody like that? You began dating in campus, they were telling you stories of Ken Walibora's Siku Njema, the set book they did in high school, and now in the year of the Lord 2022, what book are they referencing? Ken Walibora's Siku Njema. It's going to 38 years, Joachim. You need to read something else. I've heard that story for 1,000,000 times. And it's boring. Second reason why people lose interest. When goals or desires for life are no longer aligned. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? You began well. You are both very ambitious, but here you are, you've advanced in education, you've gone to the gym and lost your belly fat. You've learned a new word every other week. You've downloaded the word thing, so you learn words. You've improved your vocabulary. And you've learned how to use a fork and a knife. And you've learned about the map of the world. And you've traveled quite a bit. And you are slightly exposed. But nope. Them, no effort. They are donning their generous belly, discussing Wally Bora. Nothing wrong with Wally Bora, by the way, I love him. But there is no growth. So there's some lofty significance from one end of the partnership, and the other side, a sense of diminished growth. They've sort of plateaued, if you like. People lose interest when desires and goals are not aligned. When they're misaligned, interest is lost. Number 3 is boredom. People lose interest because of boredom. Same thing, monotony of sameness, right? You've been having sex in the same position since 1999. The head of the bed faces the door and your curtains are boring. They are purple and indigo. And he whispers some whispery quiet thing which bores you to death. And it's become a routine now. You're like, oh gosh, he's going to put on his socks again. Oh Lord, this when he does. And then tickles me and it's not even funny. Boredom. And then finally, when we change or they change. Those are the reasons, overly, why people lose interest. Monotony of sameness, outgrowing or outmaturing them, goals and desires are misaligned, boredom, and when they change or you change, sometimes not positively, they can change negatively, or other times positively, and because you refuse to change, then you lose interest. Signs. Let's go to the signs. Signs that you may not like. Number 1 sign, you're losing interest. All right? They do things you don't like, but you let it slide. You know, in the beginning, the way you'd call it out, he does something that you didn't like, you'd be like, hey, Frederick, nope, I don't like that. Or Jennifer, that's a no-no. But guess what? Complacency and decrease in certain fights is a very telltale sign that you've lost interest in the partner. These things bother you, you let it slide. They keep doing them. You don't go out of your way unless it's convenient. You remember how when you began dating, you're big on fun gifts. I dated this woman once and she used to say she likes rings. And so anytime I was in a marketplace that had rings, I just find myself picking rings. So maybe you're like that or maybe you're not. But later on, when you don't care for rings or don't care for baking a cake on their birthday and that sort of thing was important to you, you can only see them because they are near the pub you're going to drink. That's a sign. When it's only convenient for you and that's when you make time, but you don't make time any other way, that's another sign. When you don't go out of your way. I mean, let's be honest, nothing thrives of neglect. It's amazing to me when I speak to a lot of people and even read, people sort of believe that relationships should just thrive. Like they are high on steroids, these relationships. They're just balloon, like they had yeast in bread. You know, nothing thrives on neglect. And I think as men, let me speak for myself. As Eric, I used to do a very poor job in terms of just leaving everything to fate. She'll call me, say good morning, I'll call sometime and say hi. So we lack intentionality. And I think a lot of our beautiful relationships, which had potential of being phenomenal, suffer because we don't put any effort. So if you neglect it, it will not thrive. It will die because nothing thrives on neglect. All right. So you feel a sense of relief when they're out with friends. Back in the day when they said, hey, babe, I'm going to kick it with Johnny, like, oh, how long are you taking? Now you're like, Jesus, when are you leaving? Do you want to leave before it rains? You know, it's very rainy now. So grab your jacket and leave. All right? You don't share things. That's a dangerous sign because at the heart of a healthy relationship is communication. So when you're not sharing anything, you're keeping things to yourself, or worse, you have somebody you're sharing things with, it's a clear sign that you're meeting a need that is lacking in your relationship, but through somebody else. Okay? What do you think about this stuff? You don't prioritize their text or calls. This person who was tired of me used to do that. I mean, you'd call them at 7 and then 10 o'clock, you're like, hey, did you see my text? Like, you know, Eric, people are busy, yeah? I don't sit by my phone. What was it about? Oh my God, you're tired and you're losing interest. That's not what love is, or liking somebody, or commitment feels like. You don't want to prioritize. I mean, come on, Jennifer, wouldn't you? And then you have no desire to argue anymore. You know, When you have no interest to make any of your feelings or things you care about known, that is a sign you're quite tired and you're losing interest in the relationship, right? But the purpose of this conversation really is not to castigate somebody who's tired or somebody who's feeling tired or somebody who's doing this to their partner, but you don't want to be afraid to evaluate. Why? Because we get appraisals at work. I mean, they sit you down with your boss, with your supervisor, and they say, you know what, this is how far you're going, Jennifer or John. And if you can tweak these areas, then we can meet our goal or the goal we set for you. The goal we've set for you is for the general good of the company. So in a relationship, being the overall umbrella, the institution, supposing it's marriage, when you take part and you actively do the things you're supposed to do well to the satisfaction of your partner, and hopefully they the same to you, then the umbrella becomes steady. The union becomes stronger. And sometimes I feel piteous for my past relationships because I knew very little and I didn't exert myself as I ought to have. Nothing wrong with the people I dated. Maybe there was just a lot of things wrong with me. And so sometimes in my quiet time, I think about how I showed up poorly. And hopefully, by God's grace, I will show up better. And nothing will be neglected. Let me know. What do you think about this stuff? What do you think about this stuff? But don't be afraid to evaluate. Sometimes you've tried your best and they're not pulling up their weight. And now you have to interrogate and see what's the best necessary next step so that you don't stay in misery. Choosing to stay miserable is an awful choice, so you can maybe make another adjustment. Decide and marry a second man, perhaps. Good evening.